Welcome to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/Brian E. Denton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is on Chapter 70. Chapter 70. Well, begin, said Dólokhov. All right, said Pierre, still smiling in the same way. A feeling of dread was in the air. It was evident that the affair so lightly begun could no longer be averted, but was taking its course independently of men's will. Denísov first went to the barrier and announced, "As the adversaries have refused a reconciliation, please proceed. Take your pistols, and at the word 3, begin to advance." 1, 2, 3, he shouted angrily and stepped aside. The combatants advanced along the trodden tracks, nearer and nearer to one another, beginning to see one another through the mist. They had the right to fire when they liked as they approached the barrier. Dólokhov walked slowly without raising his pistol, looking intently with his bright, sparkling blue eyes into his antagonist's face. His mouth wore its usual semblance of a smile. "So I can fire when I like?" said Pierre, and at the word 3, he went quickly forward, missing the trodden path and stepping into the deep snow. He held the pistol in his right hand at arm's length, apparently afraid of shooting himself with it. This guy. His left hand he held carefully back, because he wished to support his right hand with it, and knew he must not do so. Having advanced 6 paces and strayed off the track into the snow, Pierre looked down at his feet and quickly glanced at Dólokhov and, bending his finger as he had been shown, fired. Not at all expecting so loud a report, Pierre shuddered at the sound, and then, smiling at his own sensations, stood still. The smoke, rendered denser by the mist, prevented him from seeing anything for an instant, but there was no second report as he had expected. He only heard Dólokhov's hurried steps, and his figure came in view through the smoke. He was pressing one hand to his left side, while the other clutched his drooping pistol. His face was pale. Rostov ran towards him and said something. "No," muttered Dólokhov through his teeth. "It's not over." And after stumbling a few staggering steps right up to the saber, he sank on the snow beside it. His left hand was bloody. He wiped it on his coat and supported himself with it. His frowning face was pallid and quivered. "Please," began Dólokhov, but could not at first pronounce the word. "Please," he uttered with an effort. Pierre, hardly restraining his sobs, began running towards Dólokhov and was about to cross the space between the barriers when Dólokhov cried, "To your barrier!" And Pierre, grasping what was meant, stopped by his saber. Only 10 paces divided them. Dólokhov lowered his head to the snow, greedily bit at it, again raised his head, adjusted himself, drew his legs, and sat up, seeking a firm center of gravity. He sucked and swallowed the cold snow. His lips quivered, but his eyes, still smiling, glittered with effort and exasperation as he mustered his remaining strength. He raised his pistol and aimed. "Sideways! Cover yourself with your pistol!" ejaculated Nesvitsky. "Cover yourself!" even Denísov cried, his adversary. Pierre, with a gentle smile of pity and remorse, his arms and legs helplessly spread out, stood with his broad chest directly facing Dólokhov, and looked sorrowfully at him. Denísov, Rostov, and Nesvitsky closed their eyes. At the same instant they heard a report, and Dólokhov's angry cry. "Missed!" shouted Dólokhov, and he lay helplessly, face downwards on the snow. Pierre clutched his temples, and turning around went into the forest, trampling through the deep snow and muttering incoherent words. Folly, folly, death, lies, he repeated, puckering his face. Nesvitsky stopped him and took him home. Rostov and Denisov drove away with the wounded Dolokhov. The latter lay silent in the sleigh with closed eyes and did not answer a word to the questions addressed to him. But on entering Moscow, he suddenly came to, and lifting his head with an effort, took Rostov, who was sitting beside him, by the hand. Rostov was struck by the totally altered and unexpectedly rapturous and tender expression on Dolokhov's face. "Well, how do you feel?" he asked. "Bad. But it's not that, my friend," said Dolokhov with a gasping voice. "Where are we?" "In Moscow, I know. I don't matter. But I have killed her. Killed. She won't get over it. She won't survive." "Who?" asked Rostov. My mother, my angel, my adored angel mother." And Dolokhov pressed Rostov's hand and burst into tears. When he had become a little quieter, he explained to Rostov that he was living with his mother, who, if she saw him dying, would not survive it. He implored Rostov to go on and prepare her. Rostov went on ahead to do what was asked, and to his great surprise learned that Dolokhov the brawler, Dolokhov the bully, lived in Moscow with an old mother and a hunchback sister, and was the most affectionate of sons and brothers. All right, that concludes my reading of chapter 70, one of my favorites in the book. I'll now proceed to my reflection on the same. A Year of War and Peace, Day 70. Lear's Baby. King Lear, late in the great play, clearly crazed from a string of misfortunes and fatal misunderstandings, ministers to the suicidal Gloucester about the origins of the incessant crying of infants. Lear, summoning reason from his badness, reports that when we are born we cry that we are come to this great stage of fools. Today, that great stage of fools is the Sokolniki Forest. The players are Pierre Bezukhov and Fedya Dolokhov, and we can all cry, because in your humble guide's opinion, this is one of the saddest, if not the saddest, chapters in the entire novel. The action of the chapter is straightforward and simple enough. Pierre and Dolokhov duel, and Pierre wins. Dolokhov actually suffers a potentially fatal wound. Pierre, in disgust with himself, runs away. Rostov escorts the injured party home. It is Rostov's visit to Dolokhov's house that always gets me. Dolokhov doesn't want his mother to see him suffering. He pleads with Rostov to go to her first and prepare her for what she's about to see. Here Tolstoy concludes the chapter, as he'll often do, with a gut punch of a single sentence. Rostov went ahead to fulfill the request, and to his great surprise, learned that Dolokhov the brawler, Dolokhov the bully, lived in Moscow with his old mother and a hunchback sister, and was the most affectionate of sons and brothers. This is a sharp contrast to the mean, barbarous, uncaring man we've come to know. Finally, Lear's crying infant is revealed. Suddenly, Dolokhov is made human. Perhaps it's not the crying infant in us that provokes such bad behavior. So maybe the next time some jerk behaves poorly, we should refrain from immediate judgment, and instead treat them like we treat a crying baby. More empathy, more sympathetic understanding. It wouldn't hurt to try to see ourselves in them too. We can all be petty, rude, thoughtless, vindictive, cruel, and selfish. So, recognizing this in others, what other option is there but forgiveness? Forgiveness is not the route Pierre takes. He gives in to his anger, and now he may have a murder to live with. How could he have avoided this situation? Anger is a frenzied, seemingly uncontrollable emotion. We need counsel on how to tame it. Seneca says that at the moment anger rears its feverish head, we should immediately step back and distance ourselves from its rage. Only at a safe distance from anger's inflaming heat can we accurately assess it. Daily meditation. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. Beg anger to grant you this at first, not in order that it may pardon the offense, but that it may form a right judgment about it. Seneca, on anger. Alright, so that concludes my reading and reflection on chapter 70. I hope you liked it. I surely did. As I said, it's probably one of my favorite chapters. Thanks so much for listening, though. And remember that if you'd like to support me, you can do so either by purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, becoming a patron at patreon.com, or making a one-time donation at PayPal. The links to all that are below. Your support is greatly appreciated. Tomorrow we will be reading and reflecting on chapter 71. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and of others.